Shalom, to Brother Yarack, giving all praise to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash, for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Shalom to the elect of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, whom the Lord will have mercy on in these latter days. Shalom, shalom, shalom to the men of the Lord that are prophesying, that are preaching and teaching on the highways and byways in sincerity and in truth. Shalom to all you Akim. And I have another quick lesson here, and I'll title this by thy sorceries were the nations deceived. And I have a couple quick precepts here, but this article uh, really says it all. And in these last days, as we know, Esau is going to be doing more and more wickedness. And, you know, again, this here is par for the course, but it lines up again with prophecy, uh, into what would happen, in these latter days, and as the scriptures say, we are not to be ignorant to Satan's devices. So I'll read this real quick. It says, I've lost. This is an op-ed written by some guy. I don't know his name, but it's published on RT of Malcolm Kendrick, um, a guy who's kind of studied the drug industry, um, and looked at the history on drugs and how they get approved and what the process is and the cost of drugs and whatnot. And he goes in, and the headline says, I've lost all trust in medical research. The financial muscle of Big Pharma has been busy distorting science during the pandemic. And of course they would, because, whenever there's chaos, Esau gets aroused, he gets excited. Esau being the so-called white man. And because he likes to be the hero, he likes to be the one that tricks you into thinking he's the one bringing order out of chaos, but really he's furthering his own agenda. He's giving himself more power, and ultimately he's destroying you, weakening you, confusing you. Um, let's read. It says evidence that a cheap over-the-counter anti-malarial drug costing €7, which is a euro is close to $1. So let's just say it's $7 roughly, give or take 10-20% maybe. I'm not sure where it is right now. Roughly €7 combats COVID-19 gets trashed. Why? Because the pharmaceutical giants want to sell you a treatment costing nearly €2,000. It's criminal. Now, this alone, is enough why this man needs to be taken down. Because on one hand, he's saying you have to do this. It's such a deadly disease. You have to shut down the economy. You have to wear masks. You know, you have to get vaccines and all this other nonsense. Because the pandemic is so bad, we have to do this. It's an imperative. But Esau won't even pay for the drugs. America takes in $3 trillion in tax revenue every single year, and then they still spend $4 trillion, you know, give or take. They plan to overspend. Now what other entity in the world gets $3 trillion in guaranteed revenue, and they still run a loss? That shows you that this whole thing is a Ponzi scheme. I've said that before, I'll say it again. So they won't even pay for the drug that they're saying, is going to get people, is going to heal people, you know, all the while, they're saying it's a big deal, everyone's got to do their part, wear a mask. Well, the government won't do their part by at least paying for the drug. And not only will they not pay for the drug, but look at what they're allowing to happen, if they're not paying for the drug, that means people do, in one way, shape, or form. And they're allowing pharmaceutical companies to charge $2,000, or euros in this case, So this happens in America all the time. And these drugs, although this is over in the UK, uh, these drugs are going to be shared. You have the hydroxychloroquine, you know, these drugs and these research and these clinical trials, Esau's working in cahoots across the Atlantic, to try to solve the problem, you know. And you don't hear anything about them trying to save, Africans or Africans having an issue, or even the Chinese, So it says a few years ago I wrote a book called Doctoring Data, um, and that's funny because the word doctor literally means to falsify, and that's he's using it in the correct context here when he says doctoring. That means falsifying data. You know, uh, this was an attempt to help people understand the background to the tidal wave of medical information that crashes over us each and every day. Information that is often completely contradictory. Uh, Viz, coffee is good for you. No, wait, it's bad for you. No, wait, it's good for you again. Repeated ad nauseum. Because see, they want they want to keep your attention, on them. They want to always be regarded as the experts, on health and science, and he wants to be a god and he wants to be regarded as such, and he needs a population that's stupid and docile that will just listen to what he says, and he uses every trick in the book, you know. He'll distract you, or he'll use fear, you know, or or guilt. He'll try to guilt you into to doing things. He'll say like, oh, if you don't wear a mask, you're killing old people, you know, that type of rhetoric, Um, it says I also pointed out some of the tricks, games, and manipulations that are used to make medications seem far more effective than they truly are, or vice versa. This, I have to say, can be a very dispiriting world to enter. When I give talks on this subject, I often start with a few quotes. For example, here's Dr. Marcia Angel, who edited the New England Journal of Medicine for over 20 years, writing in 2009. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. Wow. And this is coming from them, Edomite run institutions are now, are now being called into question, you know, Says I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as editor, So they're telling you can't trust anything these drug companies are saying, you know. They'll try to slander you, which is not really slander to say you don't believe in this science, but they'll try to, demean you or degrade you. They say you're not believing in science and you're a threat, you know. But these people have a history of lying, falsifying evidence, and why wouldn't they? Because they're the devil and they have no accountability, you know. Nobody is here keeping them in check, you know. They put politicians in office, and those politicians in turn do favors for them. It's definitely that way in America. I'm sure it's that way in UK as well. Um, the system's got to go. The whole thing. Have things gotten better? No, I believe they got worse. If that were indeed possible, I was recently sent the following email about a closed door, no recording allowed discussion held in May of this year under no disclosure Chatham House rules. A secretly recorded meeting between the editors in chief of The Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine revealed both men bemoaning the criminal influence Big Pharma has on scientific research, you know, because they don't care about science, they don't care about healing you. The whole pharmaceutical thing is witchcraft, and I'll get that in the scriptures, you know. Ultimately, the best way to understand it is the pharmaceutical industry, they're in the business of symptom relief, not cures. It's not profitable for them to come up with any drug that will cure you or let you go and live a healthy life. What is profitable is for them to give you temporary relief, of symptoms and keep you sick, It's more profitable for you to be sick to them than you to be healthy. Why? Because they sell the product that takes away the symptoms of you being sick. If you're not sick, there are no symptoms, and there's no sales for them. So they are in the market, the business of symptom relief. Very temporary symptom relief, and usually at very great permanent cost to your body. You know, over the long term, because they don't care about whether you live or you die. They only care if you just keep coming back and buying the drug. You know, these are the real drug dealers. Uh, of the earth, really, the real problem. You know, the email continued with a quote from that recording. Now we are not going to be able to publish any more clinical research data because the pharmaceutical companies are so financially powerful today and are able to use such methodologies as to have us accept papers which are apparently methodologic method methodolo- Salakia, methodologically perfect, uh, but which in reality manage to conclude what they want them to conclude. You know, so they're influencing actual scientific studies, things that laws get passed on. You know, when Esau passes these laws, it's based on scientific research, medical studies. That are supposed to be unbiased, objective, using the scientific method. Blah 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 blah. And look. These so-called objective scientific studies are influenced, by men, because of course they are. You know, they're done by men, and these men aren't held accountable for what they do. And anytime that they stand to benefit or make a profit off of it, why wouldn't it be biased? So, hey, this man's got to go, man. Let me get a couple scriptures, and then this whole article is sickening, because when you see the price hike from $7 up here to $2,000, now you know why they're so filthy rich. Now let's see what's going to happen to them, you know, according to the scriptures in Revelation. This is Revelation 18. It says, "And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of the harpers and the musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee. No craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee." Right, because this place is going to be completely and utterly destroyed. "And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee." No more working here. "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth." And the pharmaceutical juggernauts, these companies, this whole industry, they were the great men of the earth. They were one of those merchants. It says, "For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." You know. So and you go into that word sorceries. Uh, Pharmakeia, which goes back to the root of the word pharmacy, which goes back to drugs, you know, because that's what sorcery was, back in the day. The use or administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts often found in connection with idolatry fostered by it, you know, but the use or administering of drugs, poisoning, you know, the scriptures say this is how all the nations were deceived, in regards to these merchants, you know. It says, "And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and of all that were slain upon the earth," because these pharmaceutical companies have a lot of blood on their hands, you know, and the main blood that's on their hands they have to worry about is the prophets, the men of the Lord, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Hey, that's the apple of the Most High's eye, man. You know, and do they care? No. You know, all they care about is profit. You know, this man is a drunk, a blood drunk psychopath. You know, let's get Isaiah 47. Uh, this is Isaiah 47 and 8. I'll start at 8. It says, "Therefore, hear now this, that thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and no one else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children." That's the pride and arrogance of none other than Esau Edom in this place, you know. And we know we can go to Obadiah and see the same uh, uh, psychopathic arrogance and pride. Habakkuk 2, you know, this is the characteristics of Satan, the counterpart on the planet Earth. You know, it says, "But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood." So the Lord says He's going to bring both of them things to you that you said you're immune to. He's going to bring them both to you in one day. You know, they shall come up on thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries. There's that we're sorceries again. You know, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments, because that's what drugs do. They fuck you up. They give kids Ritalin at the age of 7, 8 years old. You know, and those kids that's prepubescent. You know, before your body has hit puberty, where your body gives you the right mix of hormones at that age for you to grow and be a man. You know, and to develop properly, both physically and mentally. You know, and you introduce these drugs that have damaging effects. You overstimulate their brains, you know, and you'll blame it on some bullshit pseudoscience that which that psychology is a pseudoscience. Really, they're just making shit up and categorizing behaviors in a book, you know, and calling it science, but they don't really know or understand what it is. You know, and based on that, they'll pass laws and they'll say you're ADHD, and they'll give your child a real chemical that will physically fuck up their brain, you know, and what are you gonna do about it, you know? The laws are on the books saying that they have the right to do this, you know. That's why the place has to be destroyed, you know, and that's why Isaiah wrote this, you know, and that's why it was written in Revelation as well too. You know, for the great abundance of thine enchantments. It says, "For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me," because you didn't think that the Lord was paying attention to all of this. You know, you because you control the science papers. You know, the authority, the authoritative source, even that you control. So if you control the authoritative source, you're thinking that, well, who's going to come against us? You know, because everybody believes that. No one wants to go against science or in research. You know, but the Most High says this. It says, "Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee." You know, so the Most High knows. You know, Esau, that this knowledge that you got, messing with various chemicals and molecules and this and that, you know, although it requires wisdom and knowledge, you don't understand it fully, you know, because you're just deriving it, you're editing it from the creation of the Most High. You yourself can't create things. All you can do is corrupt it. You know, you can manipulate it to do wickedness. You know, and the Most High even gave you that ability to do that. You know, not even that is of your own will. It says, "It hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Now, what kind of pride and arrogance do you have to say some shit like that, even in your head, man? Even if you're thinking it, you got some demons on you if you're thinking that, or you are the devil, Uh, verse 11, therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off. And it's going into that day of the Lord when these plagues start to hit this place, and that's we're in that time now. It's starting now. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. You know, uh, verse 12, it says, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt thou be able to profit. If so, be thou mayest prevail. So, in other words, use those enchantments, in that day, you know, if those enchantments are so good, let's see how they profit you in that day when these plagues hit you, See if you can use those sorceries that you can prevail in the time of the Most High, the highest coming to visit the earth, you know. So when the Lord shows up, in other words, keep that same energy, Stand with the wickedness that you've created, that you've unleashed on the planet Earth, you know, because the Most High is going to destroy this place, and you along with it, and your remnant's going to go into slavery, and there's no way around that. Verse 13, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsel. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up, and save thee from the things that shall come upon thee. The Lord saying, call them too, Call them too to see if they can help you. It says, behold, they shall be as stubble. Fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. And that's that day of the Lord that's coming, you know, through Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. and I can't wait. It says, there shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. It says, thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. And there goes that merchants again, related to Revelation 18. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. So, hey, this here, it's not surprising at all because we know the scriptures wrote about this very thing, and this is one example of it. And it's just further proof that the Bible is a book of prophecy, and it's dead on, and we're in that time of the climax of prophecy, So I wanted to share that, get that for you brothers. Hopefully I was able to explain it all. Hopefully y'all were edified. Shalom to all you brothers. Keep the faith. Call Allah Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rachakwadash Wa Abad Babal.